this is my 95% of the time, I'm using this shaking head right here, that one right there. That one, that's a 3/16 weight, and it's got a flat line tie on it, or vertical line tie. And when I say vertical, that means the line tie goes with the hook. And the reason I like that the best, and I've used them all, I've used every kind, but the reason I use that one is because you don't get hung up as much. It's that simple. And it's got a 60-degree, like where you can see where it's bent right there, 60 degrees. A lot of people 90-degree hook tie, they say, well, it gets more bites. Well, it may do it, but you're going to get hung up 5 more times, so you may not get a bite that cast. So I bend mine. We make these homemade, by the way, and it's a mustad hook. It's a long shank, and it's not a real thick hook because you're using spinning tackle, so you don't want just to oversize your hook too much. But that's the setup right there. I mean, it's a 3/16 weight, long shank hook, and that vertical line tie, it allows you to fish that through any cover. You can fish it through grass, you can fish it through rocks, stumps. It don't matter. It'll come through it most of the time without getting hung. Plus, when you rig your shaking head up there with your worm weedless, it just comes through cover the best. The worm I always use on it 95% of the time is a Zoom trick worm. I mean, it just catches them. I don't know why. And then I also use a little Jackal flick shake worm when I feel like I just want a little bit more action on the worm. And it sounds really simple, and it is really simple. I was actually fishing with my brother yesterday, and we was catching them every cast on a shaking head. And he's like, wonder why people don't throw this? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of glad they don't, though, because it just leaves more for us to fish. And of course, when it's muddy, the water's muddy, rising, I mean, and it's springtime, yeah, I love cranking too. I want to go down the bank cranking. But a shaking head is more of a time where you're trying to find fish real quick, and one's going to bite at the first cast in there. So that's why I always have it on the deck of the boat when I'm practicing, tournament, everything, because you go down through there with a shaking head, and you can ask anybody, you're going to get bites on it. I mean, it's just the way it is. So you're able to find fish really quick with it, because it gets bites, and it gets big bites. But the finesse shaking, this is the power shaking head, but the finesse shaking head, like I was talking about, the 3/16, I throw 3/16 from 2 foot of water to 25 foot. And the only time I'll go up to a 1/4 ounce shaking head is if I'm over 25 foot. I feel like that slow fall, that shaking head, is what is most of the time when you're throwing a shaking head, you don't have to shake it but 2 or 3 times and one's already got it. So I feel like they watch that thing fall. So when it's spiraling, and that's the main thing when people say, why do you throw a shaking head and not a Texas rig? Well, the main reason is because when you rig your worm up, I'll get into this, when you rig your worm up on that hook like that worm's falling just like this all the way down. And then, a Texas rig just, it just one way. And then my homemade jig head, of course, does not have the screw lock in it. And I'll tell you why I hate the screw lock is because you can't get that S action in that worm right there where it comes down and makes that S. When you tie that screw lock on, or screw it on the screw lock, it's just one straight line. But that S right there, my brother rigged his up, his look, it's the ugliest looking thing when he rigs it up on his head. I'm like, there ain't no way, that looks ugly. He's just back there reeling them in. I'm like, okay, you got to have that. So that's why I always, when I throw a shaky head, I don't even own a shaky head that has a screw lock in it, because I feel like you want to have that. And then plus, when you set the hook, that worm is going to slide down and get out of the way, I feel like. And to me, that's what like I said, that's why I'm here right now, is from throwing it. So I got the utmost confidence in that setup. But and then the power shaking head that we use is the exact same hook, or the exact same eye tie, but it's just a bigger shank hook. And that's the worm that's the hook you want to use with your Magnum trick worms, like Gerald said, your old monsters. And it's just a 5/0 straight shank hook, but you got to have that S in it. That's the main thing, in my opinion, why they buy a shaky head, is because of that worm is rigged, not like any other worm they see. So, and then while you're fishing it, another thing comes. I kind of got ahead of myself, but the thing about fishing it is they call it a shaky head. You got to let it get to the bottom, and you have to shake it. Like in most of the time, you have to shake it. But when I say shake it, You're not shaking the bait. You're not shaking the bait. You want to
Welcome to Bass University TV, an online video training course where you'll learn champion bass fishing techniques from pro anglers Pete Glusek, Mike Iaconelli, and their talented special guests. From on the water to in the classroom, you'll learn sound techniques and strong fundamental bass fishing skills. Watch hours of video content on multiple topics at your own pace for a low monthly fee. Cancel at any time. Information is power in the sport of fishing, so learn from the very best. Subscribe to Bass University TV today.